Today we are talking more about exponents and exponents that are fractions. Good news, nothing new. No new concepts at all, just they're going to be messier than some other ones we've done up to now. I want to begin by reviewing our exponent properties. Even though I don't have fractions up here, I just want to review the basic idea. If I have x to 1 power times that same base x to another power, what do I do with those exponents to simplify? Abby? Exactly, we would add whatever those are. What if I had one that looked more like this, where I have x to 1 power, and I don't have that x repeated, I just have one base, but it's got 2 powers on it. Then what do I need to do with the exponents? Griff? In that case, I need to multiply. And we don't always talk about this one, but this is something we will be using in this lesson. If I have several things inside of a parentheses, they may or may not have other exponents on them, but I've got 3 bases in here, and that's all raised to a power. What happens then? If I have a bunch of different things that are multiplied inside and I'm raising those to a power. Ada? Perfect. Each term, each thing that's a base, each thing that's written on that main line gets that exponent included in there. So we're going to be using those on problems that we're going to do. So here's one that's like that last thing. I have a bunch of different things all multiplied together inside the parentheses, raised to the power. So every single one of those needs to get the power. So choose on the main line, and x is on the main line, and y is on that main line, and so is z. Each of those 4 things needs to get that exponent. So I'm going to have 2 that gets cubed. I'm going to have the x to the 1/2 that gets cubed. I will have the y to the 1/4 that gets cubed. And I will have the z that gets cubed. So does everybody see how each of the 4 things, does everybody see first that we had 4 things inside that were multiplied, and each one of those 4 gets the cube. Now everybody shout out, what is 2 cubed? Now I need somebody to help me. What am I going to do with these exponents? Yesenia, what do I do with exponents when it looks like this? Well, I have x to the 1/2 cubed. What do I need? So I need to multiply those exponents because x gets 2 exponents. I didn't repeat the x, so I have to multiply, and I'll have 3/2. Same idea with the next one. Y gets 2 exponents. So what do I get if I multiply those? And z cubed looks pretty good to me, just like it is. Anybody see anything else we can simplify in there? So that would be our answer for that problem. Thumbs up, thumbs down. How do we feel about that one? Okay, next. I did not specifically review this just now, but that too on the outside, because I have the plus here, I don't just distribute that exponent. I did that when I had everything multiplied together in there. This one means parentheses times parentheses. That's all that square means right there, that I have 2 of those parentheses. So what I had inside was x squared plus y squared and x squared plus y squared. So now I need to FOIL these. And I'm going to write this out. Some of you might be able to do this next step, mental math, and that's okay. Don't do more than 1 step in their mental math. Some of you write out every bit of this, please, when you're doing these problems, because that's what it's going to take to keep you from making some mistakes. Don't try to do it mental math if you're going to make mistakes. So what I would be thinking first is f times f. I have x squared times x squared. Then I have x squared times plus y squared. So I have plus x squared y squared. So I've done f and o. Now inside times inside. I have plus y squared times x squared. Some of you might have noticed that was the same and just gone ahead and said 2x squared y squared right there, and that would have been okay. Got to finish foiling, L times L. I have plus y squared times y squared. If you were able to do it mental math, you could have skipped that line and said x squared times x squared is what? Because we are adding or multiplying those exponents. Because we're adding them, so x to the fourth plus, we put those two together, y squared is the same thing as x squared except with a y. Add those and we have y to the fourth. And there would be our answer. And again, this line is optional, but write it out if it takes that to keep you from making mistakes in it. Questions there? Okay, let's get a bit messier here with my last two examples. Okay, now I've got a plus in there again. So I can't just say it's x to the 1/2 cubed plus y to the 1/2 cubed. That only works when there are no pluses or minuses in there. So for this one, I need to think about that as being parentheses times parentheses times parentheses. So all I have done is to say this cubed means the parentheses times the parentheses times the parentheses. So I have three things I'm multiplying. When we multiply three things, we pick two of them and get an answer. And then we multiply the other one times that answer. I'm going to pick the last two. I could have done the first two. I'd get the same answer, but I just like the way it looks better if I pick the last two. So I'm going to save x to the 1/2 plus y to the 1/2 and multiply that times the answer I get when I take the two that I've written in green multiplied by each other. So we're going to do the same thing that we just did on that last one. We're going to FOIL it. And again, you might be able to simplify some of these exponents mental math, but if you tend to make mistakes, let's write it out like what I'm going to do right now. X to the 1/2 times x to the 1/2, that's f. Outside times outside, x to the 1/2, y to the 1/2. Inside times inside, I have y to the 1/2 times x to the 1/2. Oh, I think I will say I got two of the same things, so I'll combine those. And then I would have finally last times last, y to the 1/2 times y to the 1/2. So let's clean that up a little bit more. What do I need to do with these exponents? Madeline, what do I need to do with those when I have x to something times another x to something? Do I multiply or add when I have the x repeated? That's when I need to add. So 1/2 plus 1/2 is 1. I can write the x to the first if I want, or I can just write it as x. I already simplified the 2, x to the 1/2, y to the 1/2. And everybody, what do I do with these exponents? Add again, so y to the first, or I could just do y. And that's my answer for the last two. So I need to take that answer times the first one, because I haven't used the first one yet. Thumbs up, thumbs down, everybody with me so far? And again, if you could skip writing the x to the 1/2, x to the 1/2 and correctly get x to the first, that's okay. But write it like this if that helps you get it right. Okay, now we do the very same thing again. First, I need to take the x to the 1/2 times everything. So, and again, I'm going to write it out, but you might do this, you might combine these mentally. I'm going to take the x to the 1/2 times the x to the first, plus I'm going to take that x to the 1/2 times 2x to the 1/2 y to the 1/2. So I'll have my 2, and then I'll have my x to the 1/2, and then times the other x to the 1/2, and times the y to the 1/2. Haven't finished with multiplying this x to the 1/2 times everything. I also need to get x to the 1/2 times y to the first. So that's the x to the 1/2 times everything. Then I need to take the y to the 1/2 times everything in the long parentheses. So then I'm going to have plus x to the first, y to the 1/2. And then I'm going to multiply it by this one. So I had the 2x to the 1/2, y to the 1/2, and I'm multiplying that by the y to the 1/2 that I'm distributing now. And then finally, I have the y to the 1/2 times y. Some of you may have simplified some of these mentally, but let's go through and see if we can clean everything up a little bit. Yo-Yo, would you help me simplify my first term here? X to the what? So I need to add those exponents, 1/2 plus 1, and I have 3/2. What about this next one? What can I simplify in this one, Kit? So the x's have the same base, so I need to add those exponents. So that becomes 2x y to the 1/2. And then I have plus x to the 1/2 y. And then I have this green one, plus x y to the 1/2. So far, so good. And then I have this plus, or no, then I need to simplify this one. What can I simplify here? I've got 2 y's in there. What happens when I put those y's together, Cooper? What's 1? Okay, so the y exponent becomes a 1, so I keep the 2x to the 1/2, add these 2/2, because they both are powers of y, so that's y to the first. And then finally, I have this plus, and what do I get when I had y to the 1/2 times y to the first? What do I do with those exponents? The y is written twice. Allie, what do I do here? And get y to the 3/2. Now, do I have any like terms to combine to get my final answer? So Austin, do I have any other x to the 3/2? So I'm going to keep that one. What about xy to the 1/2, Ethan? Do I have more than one term that's xy to the 1/2? So I have the 2 black ones and 1 green one altogether. So plus 3 xy to the 1/2, and you kind of start to see why I wrote them the way I did with some things under each other in there. Nicole, what about x to the 1/2 y? Do I have another? So what do I get for the x to the 1/2 y's? So I have 3 of those. And then that only leaves the y to the 3/2. So that's my final answer there. Kind of messy, but everybody good with how we got there? Okay, I don't think the last one is as bad as this, but it does illustrate one other thing we haven't really talked about just yet. But one example to go. We can do this. Again, I have a plus sign in the middle of that, so I cannot go ahead and distribute. Or apply. Distribute's not really the right word. I can't just apply the 2 to each of these because of that plus sign in the middle. So what I have to do is to say this one means parentheses times parentheses, and then I'm going to FOIL. And if you feel confident and want to go ahead and work ahead of me on this problem, that's fine. But we're going to also be doing it together and get it up here on the board, so be sure you're checking your work even if you go ahead. So we're going to start with FOILing. So first times first, we'll have z to the 1/2 times z to the 1/2. We'll need to combine those exponents. Then we will have plus z to the 1/2 times p to the minus 1/3. Then we will do inside times inside, and I will have another p to the minus 1/3 z to the 1/2. So now I have two of those. And last times last, I will have p to the minus 1/3, p to the minus 1/3. So even if you're working ahead, just look up here for a moment. What do I need to do with the exponents with z here? I need to add them because I have the z written twice. What's 1/2 plus 1/2? So that one becomes z. Nothing to combine in the middle one. What do I need to do with the exponents on the last one, everybody? Add what's negative 1/3 plus negative 1/3? Negative 2/3. So I have p to the minus 2/3. So this would be one way of writing my final answer. Personally, I'd probably stop there rather than risk making a mistake changing it around. But I could say this is z plus 2z to the 1/2 over p to the 1/3 plus 1 over p to the 2/3. Or if I wanted to, what does the exponent of 1/2 mean? What's the 1/2 power mean? What? Square root. So I could say square root of z. What's the exponent of 1/3 mean? Cubed root. So I could say over the cubed root of p. Kind of weird, though. I probably shouldn't leave a root in a denominator, but it's a root of a variable, not a root of a number. And so then I could even say this is 1 over the cubed root of p squared. Personally, I would probably leave it this way that I circled so that I'm not risking making a mistake by doing extra stuff. Questions from anybody? Then let's work on some homework.